So you need a new family car, and like the rest of Australia, you're looking at the medium SUV segment because this is the new default family vehicle battle place. On this side, we've got the Mazda CX-5. That's been a favourite among buyers for some years now. And on this side, we've got one of the pioneers to the segment, along with the Toyota RAV4, the Honda CR-V. We're going to take a look at a few things: the way they drive, the way they ride and handle, the cabins, first, second row, and then of course the luggage space, and which one is the better value for money. Let's see how they stack up. The Honda CR-V VTi-S starts from $36,490 before on-road costs, and our tester has no optional equipment. Standard equipment highlights include keyless entry, active noise control, dual-zone climate control air conditioning, 3-angle rear-view camera, a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it also has onboard satellite navigation. In addition to that, there's 18-inch wheels, front and rear parking sensors, and an electric tailgate. The Mazda CX-5 Maxx Sport starts from $39,090 before on-road costs. Standard equipment highlights for the Mazda include 17-inch wheels, dual-zone climate control air conditioning, a 7-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but crucially, it has digital radio, which the CR-V doesn't get. The Mazda also has rear sensors, but no front, LED head and tail lights. A couple of factors stand out about the Honda CR-V's interior, and for me, they're what really make it a great family SUV. Now, the first thing is the sense of insulation and quiet inside the cabin. It's a beautifully insulated cabin, so that feels pretty premium. We talk about that a lot. That's a real factor here. There's not a lot of road noise, and it's well put together in that sense. Secondly, is the space and the storage. There's heaps of it, and it feels like a really spacious SUV, and that's going to be important for family buyers. It's in the first row, it's in the second row, and then into the luggage area. In many ways, this is a segment leader. When you look at storage, you've got proper door pockets, a really clever center console with a floating shelf system, all the plugs and inputs for all of your devices, cup holders, places for your keys. Honda's thought of everything, and a lot of that stuff that they've put into their smaller vehicles like Jazz has translated right up the scale to their larger vehicles. I like all the switch gear. The screen looks really good, especially in comparison to the CX-5, which looks and feels really small now in 2020. But everything about this Honda CR-V cabin feels premium, feels solid, and feels like it's built to last. Into the second row, and first of all, have a look at this door. Look how far open you can push it. That's almost square, so that makes getting in and out really easy. Once again, you've got really good door pockets back here. Couple of factors. Have a look how much room I've got. I've got the seat back reclined as far back as it'll go. That's my driving position, and look how much room I've got. I've got air vents, LED lighting, USB inputs, a decent bench as well. So this is comfortable for adults, not just kids, taller people as well. And of course, that reclining backrest, as I said. You've got an armrest here with some more cup holders in it. It's just a really good place to be. You feel like you're sitting a little bit higher up than the front seats as well, so the visibility is good, and the window line isn't too short either, so you can see around. It's really, really good. And again, we talk about family SUVs, road trips, that kind of thing. You could put the kids in this second row on a longer road trip, and they're going to be comfortable no matter how far you're driving. When you take a seat inside the CX-5, this is a really interesting study in the way the world and the game moves forward in automotive terms. Once upon a time, this was pretty much a standout segment leader. Still a really good cabin, but the harsh reality is that the game has moved on. Now, that's an iPhone. The real size of the CX-5's infotainment screen is pretty much the same size as a large iPhone. While there's still a lot to like about the CX-5's cabin, things like the switch gear, the execution of it, the stitching, the fit, the finish, all that kind of stuff, it's not quite as insulated as the Honda CR-V, that's a factor. You don't have as much room in here, and the storage can't match the smarts of the Honda CR-V. So while this is still a really good medium SUV as an all-rounder, the cabin can't quite match up to the Honda. So here we are, second row in the CX-5, and have a look how much less room I have. That's right, how much less room I've got than the Honda CR-V. Sure, seats are comfortable, seat back reclines the same way as it does in the Honda, but get a load of this. Look at this, knees straight up against that front seat. Again, that's my driving position like it was in the Honda, and just a hell of a lot less room. Still got plenty of headroom, The window line's pretty good. Storage is not as good, as we said before. Even in the front, that works back here. You do get a fold-down armrest with cup holders, as you do in the Honda. You do get rear air vents, but you don't get power outlets, which the Honda does get. Just feels like a tighter, more cramped second row, which I believe is a genuine factor if you're looking at a family SUV. The Mazda is powered by a 2.5 litre four-cylinder engine that generates 140 kilowatts at 6,000 RPM, mated to a 6-speed automatic. The ADR fuel claim is 7.4 litres per 100 kilometres, and we used 10 litres even in mainly urban testing. The positives of the CX-5's driving experience are pretty much the same as they've always been, namely, it feels like a really solid, well put together SUV that in many ways remains what we say at Car Advice is the driver's choice in terms of SUVs. That means in this segment, if you actually enjoy driving, this provides a slightly more sporty experience than a lot of the others. I think the engine and transmission are really well matched. Things like the brakes and steering are good, but the engine and transmission are nicely put together in that the gearbox isn't constantly hunting for the right ratio to make the most of the power and searching for efficiency, so that's a good thing as well. One point to note that you do need to note is the fact that the ride errs on the side of firm compared to the CR-V. I think it's a little firmer, especially on poor road surfaces compared to the Honda CR-V. The Honda has a tendency to iron those bumps out and be a little bit more comfortable and just sort of gentler on its suspension. It's not quite as firm. So I think that's a factor as well. But in terms of an SUV that you can enjoy driving and enjoy the interior confines of when you're out on a road trip, CX-5 still ticks as many boxes as it always did. The Honda counters the naturally aspirated Mazda with a 1.5 litre turbocharged four-cylinder that makes 140 kilowatts at 5,600 RPM and 240 Newton meters between 2,000 and 5,000 RPM. It's mated to a CVT rather than a conventional auto and also uses a claimed 7.4 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle. Again, like the CX-5, the CR-V also used 10 litres per 100 kilometres during our testing. So jump into the driver's seat of the Honda CR-V, and aside from the cabin quality and the insulation that we spoke about before, the first thing that becomes immediately apparent when you drive off is that the CVT isn't even remotely intrusive. It doesn't whiz and fizz up to redline and make all these funny, strange noises that a lot of them can do. It doesn't feel like it's straining to do what you need it to do. And of course, that's a point worth making because we don't love CVTs. They're still a little bit of a gearbox that, you know, they don't reward the person who enjoys driving, which is a factor here because it's not intrusive at all. I think it's nicely matched to the engine as well. And while this engine isn't a big one, it makes enough power for this vehicle in this segment. I think that things like steering, brakes, those kinds of inputs are fantastic in the Honda, as you'd expect. Hondas are always well put together in that sense, and the CR-V is no different. These two vehicles are particularly difficult to separate. And as we said with storage and space, that is a factor where the Honda is better. And there's one other factor where it jumps ahead of the CX-5 as well, and that is the ride. Not so much the handling, but the ride. The way that this can soak up bumps and iron out ruts and road imperfections and just generally poor road surfaces is what I would describe as more composed than the Mazda CX-5. And it's just unruffled. There's no fuss. You don't even really notice that you're on an awful road surface. This kind of just floats along, which I think makes a big difference. Maybe not so much around the city, but if you're heading off on a road trip, and yeah, we've got pretty bad road surfaces in the city, but if you're heading off on a road trip with the family and you're going to spend, you know, hours on end or hundreds of kilometres on coarse chip bitumen, you're going to notice how unflustered and composed the Honda CR-V is. I think it makes an excellent touring SUV. The Honda gets the aforementioned front and rear sensors, but it also gets lane watch mirror-mounted camera technology. All all-wheel drive CR-Vs get the Honda Sensing suite of driver assist technology, and it gets a full 5-star ANCAP safety rating. The Mazda has rear sensors but not front, and a rear view camera. However, it does have radar cruise control with stop and go, smart city brake support forward and reverse, rear cross traffic alert, and a full 5-star ANCAP safety rating. Mazda calls its safety package iActive Sense. Both of these SUVs have a comprehensive suite of active safety assistance systems. Well, it's time to pick a winner, but before we do that, don't forget to subscribe to the Car Advice YouTube video page if you want to see more videos like this, and of course, hit that notification icon as well so you know when they're coming up. Now, we've said a couple of times during the course of this test that this is very, very hard to pick and they're hard to separate. And while there's a lot to like about the Mazda CX-5, and it's really no surprise that it's so popular with Australian buyers, for us, what we've found in our single vehicle testing stands up when we compare these two head to head, and that's that the Honda CR-V is the overall winner. It's a great package, it's well put together, it's got plenty of storage and comfort in the cabin. It's a good thing to drive as well. So, do you agree with us? Would you buy the Honda CR-V if you were looking at a medium SUV? Let us know in the comments section below, and in the meantime, check caradvice.com for more details.